Joe, in my memory, I knew him. I don't remember meeting him. I just remember always knowing him as a child, especially up in Vermont. When we used to go up to Vermont, we would spend the whole summer up there. And it was a more lonely place. I don't mean lonely like we were lonely people. There just weren't, it wasn't as populated as it is now. And we had a small social circle, and Joe and Kenward were a major part of a very small social circle. So my childhood memories is just of always knowing him as a child and seeing him up in Vermont. I remember very distinctly the first time I saw him in New York, that I saw him in the winter. And I was probably about, I think I was around 10 years old then. But I knew him very well at that point. He was more stylish than anybody that I remembered as a child. He always looked impeccable. He just was always beautifully dressed. Beautiful shirts. As I got older, beautiful Agnes B suits. He just always looked gorgeous, impeccably groomed. And he was a really beautiful man on top of it. And I'm sure you know he never buttoned his shirt. He had one of the best chests I've ever seen in my life, even with hair. Yeah, he smelled delicious. I don't know if he wore anything. To me, it was his body odor. He smelled like milk and cinnamon a little bit to me. Sometimes he just always smelled really clean. Just smelled really good. Well, he was off the grid. I don't know how else to say it. In all kinds of ways. Food wise, he didn't know how to cook. I can remember them cooking dinner once, and I think he put the pasta in the wrapper in the boiling water. But there was always tons of junk food in the house. And it was so much fun because I came from a house where no junk food. My mother made everything. She even made the bread. So there was very little store-bought food in my house. There were always macadamia nuts, big jars of macadamia nuts, chocolate-covered macadamia nuts. They always had ice cream sundries in the freezer, so you could get like a King Cone or a Nestle's Crunch Pop. Really good quality junk food in the house, chips, stuff like that. So I loved going over the house. On top of it, they just had like lots of great like gay man porn, which my sister and I thought was just fascinating. They had a model statuesque of a naked woman that had a scarf. And my sister and I would spend hours making her dress out of the scarf. Always lots of pictures of naked women, but just always very stylized, very beautiful, like from, like the 20s and the 30s, So it wasn't, like some gross stuff. My sister and I, we just loved it. The house was always full of great things. And that's not even his collage studio was like a child's like dream to go in there. The stuff that he had in there was, it's a room that I dream of a lot. Like he just had the best stuff in the world, from postcards to magazine clippings. He had a really great eye in that way. So it was fun to go in there and just pick through the stuff, buttons and medals, all kinds of stuff. Joe was incredibly generous. And it seems like such like a stupid thing to be sitting here getting teary about. He gave my sister and I like exorbitant amounts of money every birthday. He wrote us a check and mailed it to me. He gave me $500 every birthday from the time I was in my teenage years until I was in my 20s when he died. There was a joy that he obviously got out of being generous in that way that I've always hoped that I could embody. And I do. I get joy out of other people, and I've always gotten a tremendous joy out of being able to give. You'd like to think that you're like him. He was, as a kid, I had never had somebody, I had people be generous with me and people give me things, but there was a way in which Joe did things that he made it seem effortless, like it was nothing. It was nothing but pure joy and wonderment to be able to do this. When my mother had her hysterectomy, he sent her, I think it was like upwards of $5,000, and told her to go shopping, have a good time, do something nice for yourself. There was that kind of spontaneity and no thought, no regret, no kind of tying of money of what it's supposed to be or how you're supposed to save it, or those kind of ways in which people get scared or uptight about money, which I probably should have so much more in me than I do. I'd much rather be like Joe and give it all away to the people that I love.